Hello, the game has started. It's my opponent to go first. I can't see a 7-letter bingo with this rack. There may be some 8s through the right floater. I've got scoring tiles in the Y and the P. My priority is to play off the Y and one of the N's. Now my opponent has changed, so I think what I will do is just play Nye, because this is a pretty good 5-letter rack leave. I'm just wondering about playing penny instead. For 28 points, 18 more points, keeping just AS. No, I still think this is better. Great, I have panniers, and Nye takes an A front hook and an ES post hook, so I have a bingo in columns 6 and 9, and also certainly in row I and row G, all of which are likely to be obstructed by my opponent's play. But I think I would be unfortunate if I couldn't get this bingo down. I don't think Panniers has got any anagrams. No, I'm just wondering about column 8 if I've got a bingo ending or beginning in Y. Okay, it would have to begin with Y. Now, Nye takes an S in front, so certainly I can play Panniers in column 6. I think J takes an S after it, so I have that in row J. I can't play in column 10 because N doesn't hook Nye. So do I hook J or do I hook Nye? I think I will go with the J hook. It scores more. There we go. Not so great. 5 vowels. There are 5 vowel. Ooh, J doesn't take an S. That's a pretty shocking blunder. So I know Panniers is good, so I do still have that in column 6. I also have it in column 10 because of up. Sometimes you just get it wrong in terms of word recollection. Now my opponent may be trying to block both of my bingo lanes, and he could succeed. Certainly Nye takes a D after it, and Nye does not take an S front hook. So I could be scuppered here. However, I will just play off my P and probably an E and leave a decent 5-letter set. Column 6 preferable to column 10 for Panniers, because Panniers in column 10 would open up row O. Now my opponent is very highly rated, so I'm not surprised that phony came off. Just wondering if I have any other bingos on this board. I certainly can't see anything beginning with the Y, or through the N, or through the U. Great, well I still have Panniers in column 10. Do I have anything better? My opponent's taken out the Nye hook, so I'm looking at 8s through F, T, E and D. Nothing with the F. The T looks likely. But it's not coming to mind. Okay, well, I can't see anything, but there may well be something there. Pretty good. In that it's balanced. I think Fat Woods is good through an O. I can't see any other bingos. I certainly don't think there's a 7 here. And I'd like, if I don't bingo, I'd like to play off the W and the F. And WOF is good, so I may be able to play that somewhere. I can play that parallel to Panniers for a decent score. I'm wondering if there are other 8-letter bingos apart from Fatwoods. No O for that particular play. There's the F of Snifted for plays with off in. I've got... Ooh. Ooh. What am I running? Nothing. Ah, Quackle. Okay, great, I'm back. Now, my opponent played off 6 tiles, so he hasn't bingoed. He hasn't provided an O. My WOF spot is still available. Corsive may take an S, but I don't feel confident about it. 32 points for WOF. I can't see anywhere better than that. Great, pressing enter is the same as clicking done. Now that looks pretty good. Quite balanced. Can't see a 7. And no 8s are coming to mind. Although I note through an F I may have a play with fish, but I don't. So I do have scoring tiles in the H and the M. 43 for my opponent. My opponent's got a good lead now. So what can I do about that? Now I'm looking in column 12. I've got a T for going after EF. I don't really want to put an S after no. So I can't see a good way of using that. And in any event, I don't have an E, so I'd quite like to play off more than just 1 or 2 tiles. And it would be quite good to split up the D and the S. They compete somewhat in bingos. My D can go in front of if, but then that's closing the board down and I'm a long way behind. And I'd quite like to open the board up. But I can't see a way of doing that by playing in column 4. What about playing in row M? Well, that will be taking out a useful E floater. So what about playing down column 12? Or doesn't take an S after it. In fact, it only takes an A after it that I've got. Well, I think ham is the best I can do there, and that's not very good. I've got 14 minutes on my clock. I'm thinking about playing this for a decent score. Whoops. And because it takes an E and an S after it, I'm keeping 5 tiles, which I didn't want to do. I'd rather play off the D and the D or the M, but I can't see a way of doing that. So I'm going with this. Not great. I can't see a 7 here. I suspect there probably are some 8s. There would be Madlings through an N. The N of Snai not in the right place, and I don't think... Oh, well, there's Guildsman. Guildsman is the anagram of Madlings, and that plays in column 7, and that's a pretty hidden floater, especially with opening up column 13. So hopefully Guildsman will remain available, and that is going to open the board wide open. Now what I want to avoid is my opponent bingoing now. If he doesn't, then Guildsman should bring me a lot closer to him. Guildsman is going to place the G in row A. So that's quite a volatile play. If my opponent's got the right letters, he may be able to score heavily off it. But in any event, the board is likely to be very open. Now, do I have any alternative bingos in case Guildsman is blocked? Okay. It isn't. Has my opponent provided anything good for me? I don't think so. And I quite want to open the board up. Great. I draw the first blank. I've got XUVE as a 7 in column 12 and in column 13. And I would have XUV8 through a V or a T. Neither available. And I have Eutexia, which plays in column 12. I'm assuming my opponent is likely to play in around Guildsman, which is fine because it leaves column 13 available. If he doesn't, then I probably need to consider bingos through that G. Any such bingo would score a lot more. Anywhere else I haven't considered. I would have Bauxite through a B in the right spot or a T. Now, have I overlooked any 7-letter lanes? I don't think so. I have a blank and there's still one to come. Great. Only 39 points for my opponent. And he has provided a great spot for XUVE for 110. And that's pretty good. There could be a bingo here. I've got the un prefix with Galit. And quite a few floaters to consider. I'm looking at the B and A of barter. Gosh, the A looks promising. Well, Languette is a 7, Languette plus an E. Now, I think ungentle is good, and that would require an N. No N's currently available. The T of heft is also available with the right letters above it. I'm looking at the floaters in XUVE. V not looking promising with the U. Now I have a 50-point lead, which is pretty good since my start was fairly dismal. Well, I'm not seeing a bingo. I've got the out prefix in column 3. G and U not great together. Only 20 points for my opponent. That's good. So I can't see a bingo. Now, what about the S? I haven't really considered the Guildsman floaters. Let me do that. I've got 13 minutes on my clock. Can't see anything with the D. Well, no bingo. I've got Deluge. Can't see anything with the S. Now, I am ahead, so it makes sense to play in column 15 because otherwise my opponent can score heavily even without a bingo by placing a high-scoring tile on this double letter square, such as the Z. So how can I play in column 15? I certainly do want to play off the G and the U. Well, Gentle doesn't achieve that, but it is playable. And since I'm ahead, it makes playing off more tiles more attractive than if I were behind. I don't have League because I don't have an A. Now surely there is a play here. Now I could play in column 13, but then I can't play the U. I've got the tele prefix with gun. Well, how annoying. This looks like there should be a play which plays off the G and the U. Well, there is. There's Genu. Let me see what this looks like. So 18 points. I'm burning the U, which I want to do. I probably can't score much more than this anyway. I'm not providing much of a bingo lane in column 14 for my opponent because he would have to hook U and it wouldn't get doubled and he'd be opening up this triple word square. So Genu has a lot of merit. The rack leaves pretty ropey. However, 2E is not a disaster, especially with only 2 to come. And these are all bingo-y tiles. Great, I have Deplete. And that plays in column 3, making die and E. It also plays, I think, in column 12, making or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep, and that gets doubled. And also column 13. Fantastic, I am bingoing. I also have Steepled, beginning with the S of Guildsman. So that's pretty good. There's 22 tiles left. The remaining tiles are quite bingo-y, although I note there's only one E. And therefore the bingo-iness of the remaining tiles is really based on the number of 1 and 2 point tiles and the shortage of the high-scoring tiles. Just VYZ, MKH to come. And also the bingo-iness is helped by the blank still being available. So I'm only 50 points ahead, but I am guaranteed to bingo, so that's about 120 points. But my opponent, especially if he bingos right now, is still in the game. Now if he doesn't, where is my preferred spot? I don't think Deplete has an anagram. Great. Only 36 points for my opponent. And I think, whoops, I think this is the best spot. It takes out the bingo lane it's played in, plus the bingo lanes through the D and S of Guildsman. So there are some bingo lanes left. There's column 3. There's the floating B and A of Barter. There's column 14. But none of them are great bingo lanes. In particular, most bingos in column 3 won't get doubled. So I think this is the right spot. Okay, not so great. Only the one vowel. And the remaining tiles looking even more bingo-y, even though I've drawn the S, the one remaining S. And what I like about this rack is that I've got the Z. And I like that not only for what I can do with it, but for the fact that my opponent is denied it. And I note immediately that I can play Zoe and Joe for about 40 points, and that could well be really useful. I'm only 96 points ahead, which against opponents of this caliber is not a guaranteed win, especially with the blank out there. Certainly an 80-point bingo would leave a very slim margin, in which case a 40-point Z play could be very helpful. Yep, there goes my opponent with an 80-point bingo. I'm now only 12 points in the lead. My opponent could bingo again. The remaining tiles are bingo-y, although quite vowel heavy. So I think I'm just going to assume my opponent isn't going to bingo, rather than trying to close anything down, and I'm going to try and outscore him. There's only the C and H as high-scoring tiles to come. Now, the danger of playing Zoe and Joe is that I'm keeping 5 consonants, and I could easily, despite the vowel heaviness, draw 2 more consonants and then be in a tricky spot. 5 tiles left, so I don't want to play off more than 4, and a play of exactly 4 would be good. It would be nice to play in row L above barter. I can't do that. And I could hold on to the Z, because if I play off 4 tiles, 3 or 4 tiles, I'm likely to pick up vowels which go well with the Z. And certainly if I pick up an A, then Zar and Jar is going to be available. So maybe I should concentrate on getting rid of my clunky tiles like the G and the V. But where can I do that? Vet is good. Odar is good. Can't see anything there. 8 minutes on my clock. What about a play through EN? Can't see anything there. Now, what about keeping hold of my O? I could play Vents, but then that's opening up a bingo lane in column 2 with the E, or even if not a bingo lane, a scoring spot for the E. I've got Vog, which I could play in row N. Keeping NSTZ, that's quite a balanced rack. And it gives me hope of going out in 2. Let me see what that scores. And I'm not giving anything away because the V takes nothing underneath it. So that's 25 points. And if I draw an A, then the Zar spot's available. And I've also got Zag and Zar. So I'm pretty much guaranteed a 40-point play if I draw an A. It would be nice to play off 1 more tile. Can I do that? I've got the G for going after PI. Well, given that I have G, V and Z, if I'm not playing the Z, I certainly want to play off the G and the V in order to maximize my chances of going out in 2. My lead is very slender at 12 points. This will put me 37 points in front. Now my opponent could play something like Dench, or he could play Dench for 33 points. I think Vog is quite a nice play. And surely I will draw an A. But if I don't, then my opponent may have 4. But I do. And I draw the H, which is important as well, because it would have been scoring potential for my opponent. Now, do I have a play in row L, something Z, something? No, I don't, because my 2 vowels are A and I. So that scoring spot is denied me. So I have the Zar spot. Keeping hints, 2 tiles in the bag. Now my opponent could bingo. The remaining tiles will have bingos amongst them, in which case I will lose. Now the trouble with Tsar, either in column 10 or in row 11, is that I'm keeping 5 tiles, and I may struggle to have 2 spots to go out with 5 tiles. But I can check that because my 5 tiles will be hints, so I do have hints in column 3. Do I have it somewhere else? Thins being the anagram. Well, I don't think I do. But my priority with this rack, I think, is to play the Z off. Now, maybe I can play off a whole bunch of tiles with the Z. I feel it ought to be something around Bowie, but I'm not seeing it. My opponent may be tempted to play off just 1 tile if he doesn't have a bingo right away. Now res is good. Waz is good, that doesn't work. I have zetas and genus. 34 points, and that would leave hint and thin. Well, I still can't see a second spot for those. Saz is good, so I could play Bose and Aga, but that's the same problem of keeping hint. I'm really looking for a play which gives me 2 outs. So my S can go after N. So again, I've got Saz, 35 points. And that doesn't provide a second out. I don't think Bowie takes an S at the end. I think thiazins is good, in which case I would have a bingo through an I. Nothing available. 5 minutes on my opponent's clock, 6 on mine. Now, what about playing thin? Down here first, next to Bowie. Then would I have 2 spots for Zars? Well, Saz I would, because I'd have Saz and Ends, and I would have Saz and Bose. So that's one alternative. Play thin first. 26 points. Yeah, that's pretty good. My opponent taking a very long time with this move. I suspect there are other Z spots which I haven't seen. Now there is the Senza using the same SAZ for 42 points. Now, if I do Senza first, I've got thin in column 5, but I've also got Hayent in column 15, so I do have 2 outs, and I think Senza's probably the highest scoring Z spot I've seen. However, if my opponent plays off only 1 tile, Senza will be providing a potentially useful floater. However, that floater will be an A, and there's a ton of them to come. 3 minutes on my opponent's clock. Another spot for Zars is, or Saz even, is L1. Tsar scores more. So I've got a whole bunch of 30 and 40 point Z plays. I'm 37 points in the lead. Quite a few vowels of the remaining tiles, 5 out of 9. And the board is available really for 7-letter bingos, not too many floaters to play through. There are a couple of 2-letter sets in ID and D and S, but it's very unusual to have 9-letter bingos. I think one game in 40 with optimum play. I have Hayes's in row E for 34 points, keeping tin. So I would be giving myself the opportunity of playing hint. And tin surely would play elsewhere as well. Yep, I would have dint in row D. Just 1 minute on my opponent's clock now. Now I have the S. So I'm looking around at opportunities to pluralise words in case that suggests plays I haven't considered. Now my opponent has done what I thought he might, which is to play off just the one tile. And there may well be bingos here. Well, I'm sure there are. I think Corralled is good. And I don't think I can block them all. Now, has my opponent provided somewhere good? Do I have a 5-letter play ending in Z? So I was considering Senza, providing a floating A. I can't see anything through that. I was also considering Thin, which remains available. If my opponent bingos, he wins. Can he bingo in the right side of the board? No, he can't. So maybe I ought to be thinking about blocking the OR hook. I don't think Hayes or Hayes is a good idea. The floating H looks like it might be quite useful to my opponent. Now, if I placed my A in after OR, then my opponent couldn't hook it. But what can I play? And if I played down column 5, I could also obstruct a column 3 bingo. Okay, I'm not seeing anything there. So what about playing, Zetas? And what that does is it kills the bingo lanes. I'm keeping Shin, but I can play that by making Ns. Do I have a second out for Shin? Hins is its anagram. Well, maybe my opponent can't block this Shin spot. I think this is going to be good enough, even if I can't go out. I think if my opponent doesn't bingo, I can outscore him. So I'm going with this. Ah, well, of course I was drawing one from the bag, so I couldn't plan I couldn't plan an out in two. And I think I may have blocked my opponent from bingoing. He, I think, would have had coralled and oracled. He may still have a bingo through BO, or more likely AG. I'm not sure there are any other available bingo lanes, unless there's a massive overlap in column 14. Unlikely. So let me focus on my own rack. My opponent's got 30 seconds left. I've got 3 minutes. Not much. I've got Haynes. Can't see anywhere for that. I've only got an S for going after EN. So I've still got Shin, but that doesn't score very much. 31 points for my opponent. My lead is now 24 points. And my opponent's likely to go out. I do have to play the H. I can play his. And let me just see what this scores. So that's 31 points. That is going to be enough to win. 24, 55, less 4. My opponent's not going to get 50 points with Rad. However, it would be nice to go out in 1. And I've got 3 minutes to find an out. I can't see anything ending with the C. What about going through ET? Can't see anything. Himation takes an S. That doesn't really help. I think Nashi is good. Hinors would be good through a U in the right spot. 2 minutes on my clock. Well, I can't see anywhere, so I'm going to go with his. And I'm sure I can go out in 2 places with Anne, even though I didn't look for such a spot. I've got Anne, Eater, and Pin. And I've got Nar, Car. Anyway, my opponent's gone out, so pass to end the game. Indeed, I think that was a great game, because it got off to a dreadful start with my appalling phony, and then my opponent zoomed into the lead, and then I caught him back up with a few nice bingos, and then we had an interesting end game because the board had bingo lanes. My opponent had the potential to bingo, and indeed did have a bingo on his rack, which was blocked by Zetos. So all pretty exciting stuff. Now, the final score, 446 to my opponent, 483 to me, a winning margin of 37 points. So let's see what I missed. It was my opponent to go fast, and he had a dreadful rack, and he changed. This was my rack. And I thought about Penny. In the end, I went with NY, and I think AENPS is a pretty good 5-letter rack leave. It's it's synergetic, and you've got the E and the S in there, and certainly in this instance, the play of NY did pay off. This is my opponent's rack. He plays Je. And yeah, Panniers was the only bingo, but not where I played it. And now a nice bingo by my opponent. And then Panniers still available in 1 spot. Napery is available through the eye, which I didn't spot. But Panniers was better. My opponent's rack, and he plays Corsive. And I played WOF for 32. I could have got a few more points, but the A is a more bingo-y vowel than the O, so I like WOF. Horrible rack for my opponent. He certainly had the worst of it rack-wise. This was my rack. And I struggled here. and I think my final play of Heft didn't feel great, and you can see why. Heft got 20, I could have got 40, I-12, hams, and probably worth doing. The S is worth about 8 points, DIT, nothing wrong with that as a rack lead, so I think Heft probably pretty suboptimal. My opponent plays Barter. However, as is the way of these things, sometimes you play a poor move and you luck out with a bingo, as I did here. Nice rack for my opponent. He doesn't have a bingo, he plays Obligator, and that's just perfect for me. I have XUVE for 110. And, well, there were other bingos available. My opponent's rack, he's not in a position to score highly in column 15 and doesn't play there. He sorts his rack out. Now, did I miss a bingo here? No, I didn't. Gulet was available, but not in column 15. I-13. Taking advantage of the E hook for Hefty. Well, that would have left column 15 open, which I didn't want to do. And yeah, there are no column 15 plays there. My opponent was dangerous, so I didn't want to leave that open. And, well, he could have played Yuck, Y-E-U-K, for example, if I'd left that open, which is precisely what I was trying to avoid with the play. Now, my luck helped again. I had Deplete. And this was the middle part of the game where I had 3 bingos in close succession, and the complexion of the game changed and I moved into a good lead. However, my opponent was able to come back with Himation straight away, and then suddenly the game is close and the end game is approaching, only 5 tiles in the bag, and this is a tricky rack. Only 1 vowel, and this is the problem. If I play Zo for 40, there's a ton of vowels to come, but I could draw 2 consonants, and I could draw just 1 consonant, and having only 1 vowel and no vowels makes the rack very unmanageable just at a time when I want to have flexibility. So I still like my VOG play, even though it's 15 points less than the best play. 5 consonants, including G and V, not good going into the end game. This was my opponent's rack, and he doesn't have a bingo, and he did the right thing. He played off just 1 tile, opening a bingo lane, leaving 1 in the bag, stopping me planning an out in 2, and giving him another shot at a bingo. And this was my rack, and I don't think the options here fully account for, or indeed at all account for, my opponent having bingos in column 2, so... Sits for 39 and Saw, that's pretty nice. Yeah, that would definitely be a nice alternative to Zetas. Anyway, I think a lot of these options are inferior to Zetas because they don't block the column 2 bingo. And my opponent cannot play Oracle now. He plays Curl, he's 20 points behind. And I did not have an out, and his or has his best. But for 42 points, not where I played it. So where is that? M14. So Corsive does take an S. Yep, so I could have got 11 more points there. And finally, my opponent could have got 20 for Ard, and he got 14 for Rapid. So a pretty exciting game. I hope you enjoyed watching that, and I will see you next time.